Shalom, shalom. It is preparation day, and we do have some food to prep for today for Sabbath tomorrow, but the little critter that has been plaguing my garden has been active again. So I have a bunch of these green tomatoes and I need to use them. We don't fry food, so I can't do, so I'm not going to do fried green tomatoes, but I have my aunt's recipe for Mexican chili roasted salsa, and yeah, so that's what we're going to do today. So the ingredients are 4 large tomatillos, 8 medium tomatoes, 3 large red onions, 1 bulb of garlic, a whole bulb, not just a clove, 1 large yellow, red, and green bell pepper, 15 whole habanero peppers, 1 bunch of cilantro. I don't have any cilantro, it's okay. 1 large lemon and a teaspoon of Celtic sea salt. So, all right, I don't have those exact measurements. What you can do is you can substitute. So I don't have tomatillos, but I have green tomatoes. So I will be substituting the green tomatoes for tomatillos because they're very similar in texture and flavor profile when the tomatoes are green. Calls for 8 medium tomatoes. I have a couple, but the rest of them are kind of small, and that's okay. It's approximate. 3 large red onions. I have 2 large red onions, 1 yellow, and then a couple small ones from the garden. So I'm going to go ahead and use those. 15 whole habanero peppers. That's a lot. Yes, it does get spicy, but not as bad as you think. So I don't have habanero peppers. I am going to substitute for cayenne peppers, and I just grabbed a handful. I didn't measure them out. It's quite a few, and there's still some on the counter. So, and as I said, I do not have cilantro. That's fine. And the juice of the lemon, I will catch that later when we go to can it. Or you can substitute citric acid or vitamin C powder. Last time I substituted vitamin C powder, worked just fine. Everything canned, everything stayed canned. So basically what you're looking for is an acid to make the tomatoes more acidic, because to help with the canning preservation. So first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 450. Now when you're cooking these, what I had to do actually was to make sure the oven was empty, because we have a large fry pan to keep in there. I already did that though. So that is started. When you're cooking these, when you're roasting it, I just have an approximate, it depending on the number of your vegetables, how large your pan is, how deep it is, it could take longer, and you may have to stir it up a little bit. So, I mean, that's just, you're just gonna have to use your own discretion at that. By the way, head on over to healthyandheart.com and pick up this recipe. It is printable, and it is in a easily readable format, and it prints on 1 page. So I hate when they print on separate pages. So what I'm going to do is, you don't have to be particular at this stage. I am just rough chopping these. Like I said, we're going to use a food processor to process these. And so you don't really need to be finicky about how large these pieces are. You want them to be somewhat small so you can get them roasted. But like this for an onion is perfectly fine. This is a recipe my Aunt Laverne used to make. She was Mexican. She came from, she moved here from Colorado when she married my uncle. And then when they got divorced, she moved back to Colorado and took my cousins with her. So, but I loved her. She was so sweet. And this was her recipe that she gave to my mother. Although instead of the habaneros, she would actually use jalapenos. So so it wouldn't actually be that hot. But we like it hot, so some like it hot, some don't. That's okay. You just need these to be in a size that's going to fit into your food processor easily. And you also want them to be a size that's going to be easily roastable, so that they will roast fairly evenly without a whole lot of stirring on your part. I also have another tip for you. Take your bread pan and line it with parchment paper. These are going to produce a lot of liquid. Do not throw that out. Do not drain it out. You will need it in the vegetables. But this will produce a lot of liquid, and this will keep you from having to wash your pan or scrub your pan so hard when you're after you've roasted vegetables. Now I'm going pretty quick with these because I already prepped them. So, and Todd helped me. He is an awesome, awesome husband and father. I'm very blessed. Very blessed that y'all sent him to us. So, are any of you prepping for Sabbath tomorrow? I sure hope you are, because it is ordered in it is a commandment to honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And the Sabbath day is the 7th day, not Sunday. Sunday's the 1st. That was Sunday was designated by the Roman Catholic Church as the Sabbath to keep, but y'all did not designate that. Sorry, but the Roman Catholic Church cannot speak for God, although ego likes to think they can. But no, God said the 7th day is the Sabbath. Honor it and keep it holy, and so that's what we need to do, and we're not supposed to do any work therein. Now, different people define work in different ways. So let's see how many cayenne we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so there's 21 cayenne here. Some are small, some are large, and I just stick the whole dang thing in there. It will roast up just fine. I may need, and there's a jalapeno that got plucked off the plant as well. These have already been washed and prepped, by the way. So cat-faced tomatoes are perfect to use in this, because as long as they don't have any rotten spots in them and they're clean, perfect to use. And we actually did end up having some cat-faced tomatoes, yes? You want to help me? Okay, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. You have to go look for it. It's in there. It's with your playthings. I don't have it. You have to go look for it. You can. Go ahead. It's fine. She wanted me to help her find her tiny road cone that goes with her doll. She lost her lion that went with the doll. A couple weeks ago, she got mad and threw it and can't find it. So that's the consequence of getting mad and not paying attention to what you're doing. Throwing things in anger. Yeah, that's not okay. You want to help eat and cook. Cook the food. This? No. Are you talking about muffins? No. What are you talking about? What do you want to help cook? Oh, you want to go, oh, she's talking about the Azure standard drop. We will do that next month, and Mom will put that on the calendar, okay? I'll do that later. Right now, Mommy's doing a video, so I need you to go play. I'm really glad she didn't want to help with this, because there's not a lot she can do, because this is chopping, and we don't give Kelsey sharp objects. That's not a good thing. Okay, for the tomatoes, I do not bother taking the core out. As you can see right there, I don't bother taking it out because when it's roasted, well, at least in this recipe, when it's roasted, it's going to soften up. It's going to be chopped up. You're not going to know it's there, and it does have vitamins and minerals. That is kind of the umbilical cord, so to speak, of the tomatoes. That may gross some of you out, but sorry, it's the truth. So yeah, we have a critter that has for the last week been going back to our garden and plucking the tomatoes off. Some of them they eat, some of them they nibble on and leave the rest of it. Usually they just pluck them off and leave them laying. I don't know what it is. Yesterday we put up some nets, which you'll see in the video I make on Sunday when I do the garden tour. We used some nets to cover. Yeah, they just lifted the net up and got underneath it. It is definitely not a deer because it's not eating the tomato plant itself, just the green tomatoes. Not even the ripe ones, although last night they wiped out all of the tomatoes on one of my plants, and oh my gosh, the Roma tomatoes were, I mean, they were humongous. They were like this big for the Roma tomatoes. Huge. I've never seen Roma tomatoes that large. But they wiped out all of them on that one plant. So, I don't know. Some critter needs to die. We do have a camera back there in the backyard. I think I might switch it over to the garden for a few nights just to see what it is that's getting into the garden and what time they're hitting the garden. Those are very important bits of information to have if you're wanting to get rid of some critters. Okay, the garlic. We just buy our garlic, and we probably shouldn't, but once we grow it, we'll be able to use our own. But we just buy it. It's been pre-peeled. You got to take what you got and make it work. So I'm not judging anyone for their shortcuts, and so don't judge me for mine. But if you do, oh well, that's your problem. Or perhaps I should say, if you do, you need to take it to God. So that was a lot of stuff right there, and I'm going to need a different tray. Hold up, Bill. Those are the linen pants that you have on. Okay, so I needed another tray because this one is just not quite large enough. I forgot that the last time I did this recipe, I actually used our enormous tray over there. But I did not quite feel like. And I'm just going to kind of. So these are going to, because they're split into two different trays, I'm going to have to, when I chop them, mix in the processor, you'll see. When I chop them in the food processor, I'm going to have to mix them into a big bowl. Stir it up, mix it up really good, and then go from there. But you got to do what you got to do. These tomatoes smell wonderful, the ones that are ripe. Oh my goodness. If the tomatoes in the store smelt and tasted like this, they would sell a lot more of them. I'm just saying. But Jess from Roots and Refuge says the store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. I couldn't agree more. That is absolutely truth. When I was a little girl, I used to go. I still do. I never grew out of this. Go and pick them off the vine and eat them in the garden while they're still warm from the sun. And honestly think they're best that way. But Yeah, if you want it, good behavior all day. Yes? Okay. Rewards with autism. Part of ABA therapy. My husband just reached temperature. Part of it is rewarding good behavior and withdrawing rewards for undesirable behaviors. So we use that a lot with Miss Kelsey, and I'll be quite honest, sometimes they're effective and sometimes they're not. It really depends on how determined someone is at the moment. So, but when they work beautifully. So if you have an autistic child, I would highly suggest that you go ahead and learn about the ABA techniques and how to implement them. You might be able to find some free classes in your community. That's what I did. Plus, having to learn about it through my college studies. I have an associate degree and I lack an internship for the bachelor degree in psychology. So I was wanting to be a counselor, but God had different plans. So, and his plans are always the best, aren't they? Okay, now I said I keep the core in there for the green ones, and I do for the red ones as well, unless it's a big one like this, and I'll just cut that off. Pop it in the compost pile. That one is a pretty large one, but if it's small, shallow, then it'll be just fine. So if you observe the Sabbath on the Sabbath, put in the comments, what do you do? What does your Sabbath look like? I would love to hear from you. For us, our Sabbath is we snack throughout the day. It's kind of a celebration, and we have no one to celebrate Sabbath with because there's no other people here in Roanoke that I've seen, and I've looked on several different gathering sites, but there's no one here in Roanoke that observes the Sabbath. Our Torah observant, and for the majority of the day we study the Bible, and it is our favorite part of the week because we just spend the whole day in God's Word, and you talk about sometimes if we're not feeling good, we'll watch a movie like the Book of John. I'll link that in the comment. I'll link that below, the movie that we watch about the Book of John. It is awesome. So we actually watch that quite a bit, and you'll catch something new every time, which is pretty amazing. But that's the way it is with the Bible, isn't it? You'll read the same scripture over and over and over again, and then suddenly you'll see something you didn't see before. You'll get new insight, especially if you do what we do, which is look into the original Hebrew word and what that word actually meant, because no translation is perfect. Okay, none are. It's subject to human error. You often have multiple people translating, and some of them are one person, but everybody that comes to a translation takes their biases with them, and it colors the way they view it. So that can also color their translation of the Bible. And we know the Bible has been fiddled with because we have in Acts Easter instead of Passover, and the disciples and Yeshua never ever would have celebrated Ishtar. Ishtar is a false god, so they would have never celebrated Ishtar, and we shouldn't either. if you don't believe me, look into the origins of Easter. It's pretty grotesque, and yeah, not anything I want to participate in for sure. Also, while you're at it, look into Halloween. We don't celebrate that. Look into Christmas. Christmas was not ever to celebrate the birth of Yeshua. Yeshua was born at the Feast of Tabernacles. And if you study your Bible, you would know that because it's right there. You just have to know what to look for. But he was born at the Feast of Tabernacles, and that is when our Savior came to tabernacle among us. And he will once again come and tabernacle among us. See, I need to move some of these red tomatoes over to the other tray, because they're the ones that can produce a lot of juice, and this one is more shallow. So when you get into studying the Word, it really comes alive, and it is really amazing how Yahuah will open up your understanding to different things in the Bible. And you know, there's a verse in Psalms I ran across yesterday. Okay, so this is so good, I'll just read it to you. Psalms 25, we'll start in verse 8. Good and upright is Yahuah, therefore he will teach sinners in the way. The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. All the paths of Yahuah are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. So it's very important that we keep Yahuah's covenant. And his testimonies, and be obedient to what he says. Because if you think about it, would you want to spend eternity with the people who don't want to listen to you, who are rebellious in their heart, who are hateful, full of hate and anger and bitterness and strife? You know, you wouldn't want to. You don't even want to spend 5 minutes with people like that. So how much more would Yahuah not want to spend time, eternity with people like that? He wants a people who are going to be obedient to his laws. And his laws, it's just like when you tell your child, don't run out into the road, you can get hit. You're putting guidelines there. You're putting guardrails there for your child, to keep your child safe. And that's exactly what Yahuah's commandments are. They're guardrails to keep us safe. And a lot of times they're to keep us safe from ourselves, because all the thoughts of man are evil, right? Of our human nature is evil, and so we have lost a lot of friends, and our family doesn't have a lot to do with us, because when you start obeying the commandments, I don't know if they don't know what to do with it, or if it convicts them and they can't handle the conviction, but they will separate themselves and from you. And that's what it means to be a separate people, because when you're obedient to Yah's law, then the people who are disobedient to his law distance themselves from you, because your very breathing and doing and obeying the commandments convicts them. And they don't like it. It's uncomfortable to be convicted. So, anyway, that's our Bible lesson for today. But it was really interesting when I ran across that verse last night, and I was like, I just developed a whole new understanding to, you know, the mercy and the truth is for those who are obedient to his commandments. So, and if you don't, when we went to church, people wouldn't read the Bible. left of Matthew. They wouldn't. The preachers, they don't preach left of Matthew very often, unless it's like the place in Proverbs, for everything there's a season, a time, and a purpose under heaven. They'll preach like little sentences, but they don't actually teach what the Bible says. They don't in Sunday school. They don't. And I have been to literally hundreds of churches in my lifetime, because as a child we would keep getting kicked out. Because when my parents wanted to be obedient to Yah's word, they didn't quite have a deep understanding of what Yah's word said. So we were Pentecostal holiness, and couldn't cut your hair for women. You couldn't wear anything but skirts and long sleeves, and etc., etc., etc. And so that makes for a very rebellious child, because they don't know why that rule is there. And when you read it, it doesn't say that. The Bible does not say that. So it makes for a very rebellious people. But when you tell a child, this is the rule, and this is why that rule's in place, because this can happen. When they have an understanding of why that rule's in place, then they're more apt to be obedient to the rules. And that's exactly the same way it is with Yahuah's commandments. When you stop hating them and stop resenting that you have to be obedient to Yahuah, then you begin to understand why those rules are in place. Just look at wool and linen. I just did an article, I will link it below, yesterday about wool and linen. They have energy frequencies, and they both have 5,000, but if you put them on top of each other, they cancel each other out. And black is a very negative color. It will drop to 0, and it actually pulls your energy down. It collapses the energy field. So, and this is research by doctors. And I do have the link to the original article that was written by the doctor on my website in the article that I wrote, which I will link below. But it's really interesting, the healing powers of linen. It's been known for centuries. They used linen stitches to stitch up on the inside because the human body can absorb it. Linen bandages had been used for years until they went to the bleached cotton. And linen bandages are more healing to the body. So we're converts. We actually believe all of that because, hey, the Bible says it, right? Put your linen clothes on. But we put linen sheets on our bed, and they were expensive. Okay, I will not lie, they were over $100 for a set. But I was under spiritual attack at night. Every single night I would be having nightmares for no reason other than being spiritually attacked. And when we started putting the linen sheets on the bed, from that night forward, I've not had that. Gone. And we've had them over a month on the bed, and it's just amazing, peaceful, restful sleep that I've ever had. So that is a huge testimony, and that is proof to me. But back to the recipe. I'm getting ready to put these in the oven. Ooh. And they will take, I'm thinking about 45 minutes. Yeah, that's what I found there. About 45 minutes. To roast. And then I will be back. I will be back with you. So for you, it'll just be a couple of minutes. For me, it'll be about 45, and I'm going to set my timer. And in the meantime, we'll be in here cooking and whatnot. And I will get back with you very soon. Also, while I'm gone, I have some jars here I'm going to disinfect and sterilize the lids, and those will be ready for the canning process when I come back, when the vegetables are done roasting. Hey, I'm back, and you guys didn't even realize I was gone, because that's the magic of recording. So these are ready to come out of the oven and get chopped. So I'm just going to leave the other one in there until I get this one done. And be careful, you may get gassed by the peppers. And so what I do is I just spoon it in here. So I just spoon this in here. You can't go over that middle piece because it will leak out. Ask me how I know. I try not to get the juice because there is a lot of juice in here. Hang on, I'll show you. It doesn't matter if it cools down because I'm going to have to water process it anyway. So look at that steam. You can roast it longer if you want to, but you don't have to. I just like a little bit of the roasted flavor. Hopefully you got to see that it didn't steam the camera. We'll see. Let's see, it could be. There I am using my brain, moving it closer. Okay. You can chop these up as fine as you want to. My mother, hers is almost like it's already been chewed because she likes hers. She don't want to have to work for it, I guess. But she chops hers up really, really small. I like mine a little chunky. So that's what I'm going to do. Oh yeah, it would be nice if I actually had the part in there. Well, let's try this again. I was missing a part, so it would not work. That's one thing I really don't like about this chocolate, is if that middle part's in there, it will not work. So, let me refill this again. Do not discard this juice. You will need it in your canning because otherwise when you process it, it will get really dry in the jar. Ask me how I know. The first time I did this, I actually drained the juice off and drank it. It was really good. But it did not leave any to go in the jars to keep them moist. Okay, so I like mine a little chunky. You can see that. And I have a large bowl right here that I'm just dumping it in because I'm going to have to do this multiple times. So during the break, I got some bread that I made last week, sliced up. It's still good. That's the good thing about milling your own grain and making your bread from that. It lasts for weeks, but it will get dry and stale. So it has not gotten dry and stale. My daughter is actually eating a sandwich from it right now and loving it. But I sliced it up. I went ahead and sliced it up. Toasted it in a skillet with a little butter and some Italian herb seasoning, and then I'm going to chop it up into little cubes and pop it in the dehydrator and dehydrate it for homemade croutons. Waste not, want not, right? That's a little saying my mom used to tell me when I was growing up. Of course, she was a child of the Great Depression, so back then that was very important. I'm going to stick you right here. Now this pan is really hot. Don't touch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and that's another great thing about the parchment paper is I won't have a cleanup after this. After I pour this out, I'm just going to pour it right in my pan. will. Yeah, I will. That's okay. It's not bad. Nothing got baked onto the pan, so it's okay. I don't like when I don't like when things get baked onto the pan. It just makes it look dirty. So I'm gonna turn my oven off, and I'm gonna pull up this. We'll get blasted with heat in the face first. Then I'm gonna pull out this last pan, which does not have as much liquid on it because the ripe tomatoes were in the other pan. Now there are a few pieces in there, especially the onions that are a little larger. That's okay, I'm not going to fret about it. It's still chewable, right? Spoon. And most of the hot peppers are in this one, and the onions. If you do what I do, be careful about that. Having something splash on you or fall on your hands. Now, even though that came out of a 450 degree oven, and it laid it on my hand, it will not burn. I prayed about it. Laugh if you want, but it works. So many people don't realize the power of prayer. Prayer is a powerful weapon and also a powerful mode of healing when you pray and ask the Father. I'm going to try to get the last of this in there. It's not very much. So Todd has some vegetables roasting over there, some hot peppers, because he's going to make a hot sauce. So in our toaster oven, he has it going with that. Now this one has very little juice in it. Not even enough to bother with. So the pan's pretty clean. That's not bad. My workspace right here needs to be cleaned again though because I dropped the tomatoes. You need to come over here. Alright, so here is my salsa in the pan, and as you can see it's different colors because I dumped the last part in the middle over top of the first pan, and the first pan had a lot of the ripe tomatoes in it. Sorry for the steam, can't be helped. It is hot liquid. So as I said, right there is where it landed. It's not even red. Man, prayer's a powerful weapon. You need to pray. It's a nice tool in your arsenal that Yahuah gave us. Alright, that looks good and mixed. So now we need to add our acid and our salt. Takes a tablespoon of Celtic sea salt. That's a tablespoon. Trust me. Let's see. I am also going to put some garlic powder. They are your flavors. Onion powder. I'm off script. I never stick to a recipe, not even my own apparently. And so now you need the acid. I'm going to use ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. Really good to keep on hand and if you get sick. And I'm going to put 2 scoops in there. I'll go with 3. That would be about the equivalent of 1 lemon. And so now I'm just going to stir all that in. Hi, Herb. What you doing, little man? Kirby's our wild cat.
Cayenne bomb.
That's the cayenne hot sauce he just made. Bring it back over here and show the color, babe. That does have beautiful color. And a taste test.
Perfect. You smell the hotness.
They can't smell it, but it will be good. You took my thing. So you want about a 1/2 inch headspace, which is about level with the rim. Yeah, that's good. And this has to be water bath processed. I process it for 45 minutes in a water bath. Never had a problem with anything coming unsealed. Are you getting the box, Kirby? Alright, this one's a little bit too full. You want it to be about to the rim right there. So you see some people with a stick sticking it in there trying to get the air bubbles out. if you pressure can it to seal it, the pressure is going to push the water out. If you water the air out, if you water bath can, the water is going to push it out, the air bubbles out. So if it's a wet ingredient, you don't have to worry about it. Now, if it's a dry ingredient that you're canning, yes, you may need to make sure that the air bubbles are out. And by dry, I mean like something that doesn't have as much broth as this does. Oops, too much again. Somebody needs to come up with a glass one so you can see through it. While he was holding his hot sauce up there, I did do a taste test on this and it is perfect. Not too much salt, not too much acid. Perfect. Oh yeah, Miss Kelsey? I still may not have enough cans. Let's see. Sorry, if there's any extra we can have for Sabbath tomorrow, right? Ah, too much in there. These big ones, the liquid doesn't settle down into the jar with the canner because it's made to fit both small and wide mouth. And make sure you keep the top of the rims clean. You want to wipe it with a damp towel. That is a good policy to do. And you want to keep a half inch. Okay, you need to stop obsessing about it. I want you to think about it, but you have things to do. First of all, you need to clean up your spot from eating. You want to have an inch of headspace because the air will push out, and because the air will push out, and you want to make sure that if there's any of the liquid comes up with the boiling process, it's not going to come underneath your lid. Good job. And yes, all good behavior. I have just enough cans. I actually had to wash more during break because I did not have enough. So there's a little bit left here. It will probably be gone by the end of the day. Hand tighten. You don't want to over tighten because you don't want your jars exploding. You want to visually inspect your jars to make sure there's no cracks in the jar, there's no chips or cracks in the top of the rim of the jar, because those will cause your can to fail. water bath. Now, I got out of that batch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pints out of that batch. So that's not bad. That's quite a bit. And I will water bath these. When I was little, we had a barbecue pit, a brick barbecue pit, and Mom had these huge feed barrels. I believe they're used on the farm, and she would use. Yes, you need to wait, please. She would cook do her water bath out there on the fire pit because it was like this deep and really wide. So it was really, really nice. So she would do her canning on that. And so what she would do is she didn't have these new little fangled gadgets like this little flower to put in the bottom. You do not want your glass jars to touch the bottom of a hot pan. Don't do it, it will explode. That's one rule I listen to. So, and I'm just going to stick these in here. They will come up to temperature with the water, and it's fine. You want to make sure that you have it's going to be 2 cycles. I really need a larger pot, right? That's going to be 2 cycles because then I can only get 5 in here at a time. So the second one I'll do the last 3. You want to cover your jars with about 2 to 3 inches of water. I go with 3 just to be on the safe side. Bring it to a boil. Usually if your jars are hot, your sauce is hot, you can just stick them right in boiling water. Mine's not, so I'm just going to bring them up to temperature together. Easy to do. A little trick, if you have hard water, we have lime in our water, so it will cloud, after a water bath, it will cloud the jar, it'll cloud the lid, and it just makes it look dirty. So a splash of vinegar, probably about 2 tablespoons, will be enough to prevent that from happening. And this is just regular white distilled vinegar from Food Lion, gallon jug. So that will keep it from happening. It will not get in your water. It won't get in your food. So there's no worries there. And then you'll bring it to a boil, and it helps to put a lid on it, which I do, and boil it for 45 minutes. At a hard rolling boil, you'll want to turn the temperature back when it starts to boil. No, but Mommy's talking. Can you wait, please? So, what was I going to say? So, Mom, she didn't have the flour that you stick in the bottom to keep it from making the glass jars to explode when the fire comes in contact with it or the heat comes in contact with it. So, what she did was they used old blankets, the really thick old blankets, and they would line the barrel with that underneath, and then they put the glass jars in there, and then they would cover the glass jars over with the blankets, and so it would keep the water from boiling out so bad, because there was no way to cover that to keep the water from escaping. So and then they would use a fire to build it up to temperature. That's the way it was done. That's the way Grandma did it. That's the way Mom did it, and they never had their food explode using the. So you could potentially use some old towels in the bottom if you don't have one of the rubber or silicone flowers to put in the bottom. I have a silicone thing that come with my Instapot, an accessory. It didn't come with it. It was an accessory that just lifts down and out. I think it was for eggs, but it would work for this to keep them from touching the bottom. So that would work too. Just anything to raise your glass jars off of the bottom. That will work. So actually it looks like Todd's going to have some over here to can as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make 6 of them fit in this batch, and then I'll cook his off. I will process his with the water bath at the same time I'm doing mine, so it will be all good for the second batch. And I will get that. I'm going to get off of here and get that started. I'm not going to videotape that because that's just, it's boiling water. Nobody wants to watch water boil, right? So if you want this recipe, my Mexican chili roasted salsa, head over to my website, healthyinheart.com. You don't even have to enter the www. It will take you right to it, healthyinheart.com. And or click on the link below and pick up this recipe and print it out for yourself and give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments. So thank you for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. Yahuah bless you and keep you and give you shalom. Until next time. Yah bless.